A while back at one of my seminars, someone came up with a rather unusual request, and that's they asked if I could show them how they could take a person and make them look like a ghost, so you'd be able to semi-see through them to whatever's in the background. Well, of course, there is nothing behind them because it's, well, a photo, so we have to simulate it. I'm using an iStock photo, but as you can imagine, this technique can be applied to anything. The technique is actually pretty simple. It's applying it and taking the time to make it look realistic. It takes a little more time. So to start off, I'm making a really basic selection. See, I'm not even attempting to bother to select him because the way we'll do it is everything else here will look the same. So we don't have to really worry. Well, you'll see when we do it. So I just made that very simple selection. Duplicate, Command or Control J, or you can of course use the layer menu. Now personally, I don't like working right on the background layer, so I'm also going to duplicate that and work on this copy layer. That way I have a backup plan. So if I really mess up, I can use this one here. So now at this point, we're going to just zoom in on the area that we're trying to cover up. So we need to make it look like these clouds and so on continue. So needless to say, we could do this in a variety of ways. We could use the clone stamp tool. We could use the patch tool. We can use just what I'm going to do to start off is just make, let's do a little better job than that. I'm just going to make a selection. I can probably do a fairly good chunk of this in one shot, something like this. We'll make a selection that includes, we're going to use that horizon line as kind of a reference for us. We're going to feather that quite a bit. Let's use 10 or so. And all I do is take my move tool with the Option or Alt key held down, and as I drag, you'll see it drags a copy. And this way I can also use that kind of line of horizon to kind of match up and make sure the clouds look kind of natural the way they're progressing. Now the chances are you won't get it all in one shot. You have to do a bit of clone stamping here and there, but this is a pretty quick way to get the major chunks done. Just make a selection, feather it. Depending on where it is, you may not have to feather it that much. I'm just using keyboard shortcuts like V for move to get my move tool, and then drag over where his feet were. And basically we're just going to continue that operation. Now down here where I can sort of see an obvious seam, I might use the clone stamp tool, just put it back to normal, 100%, 100%, there we go. And basically just clone over these little areas here just to make sure they kind of match a little better, because right now there's a pretty obvious little line there. And let's just continue the same operation. I'm just going to use the same thing, L for lasso tool, make a selection, try to make a fairly random shape because that can help a little bit. Try different amounts of feather, move tool, Option or Alt key. Now here we'll have to be a little more careful. Oops, let's undo that last one there. If that happens where when you hide the edges, Command or Control H, it doesn't quite match up, you can always press Command or Control L for levels. And while it's still selected, but I've just hidden the edges, I can play around, usually just using the gray the gray slider. I often say things but describe the wrong thing, don't I? Okay, the gray slider will really help the colors match in a little bit better. Okay, so basically that's what we're going to do. I'm going to pause so I can just continue fixing this, and then we'll show you the final steps in just a moment. Alright, we're back. Rather than make you watch me clone and patch and everything, this is my quick version. So now what we have is the background where we've basically, in effect, removed the man, but remember he's still on this layer here. So really all we have to do is take this layer now, and as we lower the opacity, we give the illusion of as if he's a ghost and we're seeing through to the background and behind. That's why you can see it didn't really matter if my selection was perfect because the rest of it's going to match up anyway. It's really just the different part, in this case the man with the umbrella, that's going to look a little different. Now, of course, that's one option. The other option would be to put the opacity all the way back up to 100 and use a layer mask and do it more either gradual or selectively. For example, if I take my paintbrush, let's lower the opacity down on that, and let's try and find, of course, just because I want to get a nice soft round brush, I don't have any. So let's reset our brushes. Good habit to get into is, check things before you start actually filming something. Of course, you may not be filming like I am, but you know what I mean. So basically now I can paint the areas I want, so I can make parts of him more or less see-through like that. So it's gradual, doing a mask, or I could even take my gradient tool, use just the standard black to white gradient and do it gradually. Let's actually try a radial one just for the heck of it, see what happens. Interesting. Anyway, you get the idea. Basically, it just takes a bit of work of doing the cloning part, but you can imagine how you could apply this principle to all kinds of different things. Hey, this is Dave Cross. I hope you enjoyed that tip, and I hope you'll find that there's a way you can take that and apply it to your own type of work, because that's really the important thing of these techniques.